make their case better? I simply don't know. I find it politically, frankly, quite baffling. I'm joined by Paul Turner, immigration barrister and head, of course, of Imperium Chambers. Paul, you see the point I'm making? That people always were going to have the right to appeal. That we learned yesterday that the maximum number of people who could be detained in what might even be thought to be secure accommodation was 1,000. And still today at Prime Minister's questions, Rwanda came up. The Prime Minister made it clear that the planes would be taking off for Rwanda very soon. And I'm not asking you to comment politically, I wouldn't do that. But it's pretty clear to me, and maybe confusing to our audience, though, that we pass a piece of legislation, the Illegal Migration Act, and we've all been brought up to understand that when Parliament passes a law and it gets the royal assent, that it's the law of the land. But it's not here, is it?
It's the law as in it's on the statute book and they've passed it. But to implement the law, they need to spend money. And you're quite right about the detention estate, as they call it, where people are locked up. And there will be a large number of people in the detention estate that are foreign national prisoners, criminals, that simply can't be allowed out because of the risk of them reoffending or running away. So the amount of space that there is for people is remarkably small. And the government must have known this when they passed the Illegal Migration Act. It is quite simply, even if we think that there's 30 or 40,000 people claiming asylum and there's detention space for 1,000, if you want to detain them, you need to invest in building more detention facilities or finding places to put people. But the government must have known, with the lacuna that people can make applications on the basis of their human rights not to be removed, that firstly, they're not going to be removed. Secondly, that they'll be given an appeal right. They could well win the appeal. And thirdly, that even if they are detained for a short period of time, working as an immigration lawyer, often one has to do bail applications. And the law says you can only detain people if there is a realistic prospect of removal within a reasonable period of time. So, put shortly, if the Home Office says, well, he's illegal and we want to remove him, the judge will normally ask, has he done anything wrong? No, apart from illegal entry. And then they'll say, has he got an asylum claim outstanding? Yes. How long is that going to take? We don't know. And then bail's granted. And it's often granted with no real surety. The person can often just say...
When you say bail, again, this word keeps being used with regard to those that cross the channel or come on the back of lorries. But normally for bail, a sum of money has to be guaranteed.
Well, when I started a long time ago, and in certain circumstances, that you will need to provide sureties. The sum is usually around £2,000 or £4,000 on average. And then the judge will hold the person liable. Often with people that have come on a small boat and they don't have any family here, but the prospects of them actually being removed are so remote as to be almost non-existent, the judges will grant bail on their own recognizance, which in layman's terms means on a promise that the person won't run away. And sadly, as you've commented, people do run away. And if I was in their position, perhaps I would run away.
Because your chances, if you run away, your chances of being found are brought back to a system.
Watching the Home Secretary talking about that steps are being taken, discussing this with other people that I know, the Home Office has a hard enough job because of its lack of resources in actually getting people to sign on regularly. When people abscond, it is very rare, unless the person is unlucky enough to be caught working illegally on a raid, or unlucky enough to be caught at a tube station when the immigration do checks. As far as I'm aware, the Home Office do not go round to people's houses the day after they do not report. The idea that they're trying to track people...
it's just for the birds.
...is fallacious.
Just for the birds. Yeah, it is for the birds. Hey, goodness me, we can't even find the chemical attacker, you know, who was seen at Tower Hill Tube at 9:30 one evening. So, yeah, no, I mean, where are we going with this? I mean, this could be a major election issue. Now, you know, presumably, for the Human Rights Act of 1998 to be amended, we would need to have a debate and discussion about our role with ECHR.
There needs to be an honest decision about whether the UK wishes to remain a part of the ECHR. Now, as an immigration lawyer, it comes no surprise that I think it's a good thing as opposed to a bad thing, and it is interwoven into our international obligations within other parts of the United Kingdom and the Refugee Convention.
Oh, it's been written into devolution settlements, and I mean, And I mean, you know, unwinding this is not a straightforward thing. I mean, I get that.
But I think what's really important is that if the system was funded properly and claims were evaluated properly by the Home Office and then by the courts, then the sort of travesties that come out, such as the individual that carried out this attack, there would be less of them. So there's not we don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but we certainly need to get rid of the bathwater.
Yes, and we could talk about Christian conversions and many other things. It was pointed out in Parliament today that since Archbishop Welby took over, there's been a huge decline in the number of people in this country saying they're Christian. Apart, of course, from those who come from Muslim countries who want to pass their asylum applications. Paul Turner, thank you, as ever, for joining me. And it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I disagree with Paul quite fundamentally on that. I don't think the ECHR is now fit for purpose. I completely get why it came into being 70 years ago. I think we've moved on. But the point Paul made is the right point. We need to have an honest conversation